Así mismo, señores, aquí estamos, Saturday, 11 o'clock. Here we are. It's the weekend, and we're getting started, folks. And you know, this program is all about getting to know who are we living with. ¿Con quién estamos viviendo? ¿Quiénes son los vecinos? Who's next door? And what are they doing? And today, I've got an amazing program where I've got a person here who is really stepping up on so many different levels, awarded a couple of times already for the business practices that they've been putting together, the establishments that they're doing, but it isn't always a straight and narrow path. So guys, make sure to tune into this program and listen to it all the way through so you can find out where your passion might just be and how could you make it possible? So there's a lot to cover in this program. And as usual, folks, I ask you guys that if you have an amazing story, reach out to me and let me know. It's from the neighborhood on any of the social media programs that you may have your profiles on. Just look up From the Neighborhood and reach out to me. And on the website, fromtheneighborhood.com is where you can find out everything that I'm up to, all the things that I'm working on, the different things about the program. And if you're a business, that's the way to get in touch with me if you want to advertise. So here, the whole team at Latino Mix, myself included, can help you guys get that message across to the communities. And especially with a program like this, From the Neighborhood, well, it's awesome because we've got CEOs, business owners, folks who have major trajectories in their career. And they're right here in the program, seeing your brand front and center. So así usted conecta su marca con la comunidad en ese programa From the Neighborhood y todo lo que Latino Mix tiene que hacer. And guess what? We've got a new thing. If you guys want to produce your own content, we've got a space set up in the studio that we can go ahead and help you guys get a setup just like mine and get your message across and reach out to the people who are in your network and tell them all the things they need to know about whatever it is you do in your business that may be helpful to them. So guys, a lot of things going on in this station, and I want you guys to support all the work that we're doing. Check out the new store, shop.fromtheneighborhood.com. That's where I got some pretty cool gear. Today, I'm going over to Brooklyn. That's why I'm wearing the Brooklyn sweatshirt. This is kind of a throwback. It's going to come back to the store. And in Brooklyn, we've got some amazing people. I covered a couple of shows already where I've had so much fun about Brooklyn. This one here, I'm going to go to Crown Heights. I'm going to go to Canarsie and a couple other things that's going to be shared along the way with this person here that's setting up their business and doing some pretty remarkable things. So as you know, folks, the program is all about debunking the preconceived notions, the stereotypes about what is it to be from a certain area. And when we have a program like that, you know, we're about to set off some things and we're going to set off some thoughts and get you guys going into another direction. So guess what? With a Saturday morning, new thoughts, provoking sort of things, stories, and all sorts of stuff that we're going to share here. Well, I can only think of bringing it on with a song that's going to get you pumped. So this Saturday, get ready, guys, because we're about to set it off. Let's go.
De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
That's right, we set it off. Aquí estamos encendiendo lo que es la conversación del vecindario y así ustedes puedan hablar con su vecino. This is the point of the entire program, guys, getting people to connect, not beyond social media, not just simply send a DM and that's it. And I've got a great guest that's here with me today that's connecting on so many levels. I kind of went into it a little bit before because she is not only working her full-time job, which is a very respectable job, takes a lot of time and dedication to do it. You got to have a lot of focus. She'll tell you about it, but she's also setting up what is her dream. And I'm very proud to bring onto the show Jaylee Zeno. Welcome.
Thank you.
Bienvenido al programa.
Thank you for having me.
We're super proud of the things that you've done, and I know the folks who are listening are all wondering, well, what does she do? What is such a big deal? I met you initially when you spoke at a panel, right. And I was like, that's a pretty remarkable story, but how do you balance the two things in your life? And let's just let that cat out of the bag so people kind of get to know what they're going to walk into. Tiene un trabajo de tiempo completo, full time.
Yes.
As what?
As a court officer.
She's a court officer. Tell us, what court system are you in?
I'm in the Bronx Supreme Criminal Court. So, you know, the Bronx is a different animal.
So the BX in the house, let's put the big BX right there. A lot of action, right?
More than a lot of action.
There you go. So you got a day that you got to keep your focus on, but then you're also running businesses.
Right.
And, well, running a business, but it has different levels because running a business is a consumption full of someone, right? But you're juggling both things. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to what makes Jaylee, right? And let's go back to her government name. As Jaylee is Puertorriqueña, right? Boricua.
Correct.
And born in Brooklyn.
Born in Brooklyn.
So tell us your government name.
Jamie Lee Zeno.
Jamie Lee. It's pretty cool, right? Jay Lee? Who cut that down?
I did, against my mom's will.
Yeah. So mommy sounds to me like she was very strict at home. She sounds like she kind of laid the rules. Is that the way it went?
Yeah, she was a disciplinarian for sure. It was all her.
What were some of the things at home that you would say, like, this is the way it was in my house, and you can't negotiate that?
Well, for one, Saturday mornings, you're up and cleaning. It's cleaning day. Get up. There's no sleeping in. Like, none of that.
For real? Por allá afuera, out there is a Jaylee right now who mommy's got her mopping the floors at 11 a.m. Hope you're tuning into the show, because here's your Jaylee. You're going to come out all right. Jaylee, right now, we're going to go into, like, somewhat of what your age is, unless you want to tell us.
It doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm 37.
37?
Yeah.
Hey, big round of applause. 37, looking good here.
Thank you.
37, court officer, all the action you're taking, plus business owner.
Right.
And no stress.
I wouldn't say all that. I just hide it well.
Yes, and she hydrates.
I try to.
So let's go back to Brooklyn. Where were you born?
In Crown Heights. Born and raised in Crown Heights.
Crown Heights. Mm-hmm. What kind of influence did that have in your life?
It was different. It was predominantly a black area.
Mm-hmm.
I always was a very fair-skinned Puerto Rican, so they thought I was a white girl all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, who's this little white girl in the neighborhood? And because of it, I got picked on a lot. It was like, oh, well, we'll pick on her. So it forced me to kind of have like a backbone from early and be able to have thick skin when it came to people and how judgmental they could be.
Yeah.
So that was that. But then I kind of found my little niche there, and then, everything was kind of smooth. It was cool.
Adversity can be a benefit. Yeah. Especially if you're going to enter the game of business, right? Where you have folks who are doubting what you're doing. They don't believe in your idea.
Correct.
But you developed some thick skin along the way.
I did.
Proud of you for that.
Thank
Brooklyn happens to do that to a lot of people.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I think in a way, it just New York City in general, but Brooklyn has like this niche, right? Where it's known for the grit.
Yeah.
And, even in your job now, it probably helps you survive in the BX doing your job as you do so every single day.
Yeah, and it's rough, and you have to have thick skin there. No doubt about it. Like, no doubt. I tell some of my coworkers that I see they don't have that thick skin. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you got to kick it up a notch, right?
Well, let's thank your mommy for that. But also, moms and dads make up family. What was your dad up to?
My dad is a retired Marine, so...
Vaya. Okay.
And you would think that he was the strict one, but no, actually. He was the one who was like silly putty.
That's because you're daddy's little girl. I think the dad's got something with all the daughters, and they're just soft with them,
Yeah.
So you got away with everything.
Yeah, pretty much with him, not with mom.
Wow. Describe to me Saturday morning right now. So you said besides mopping and sweeping, you did leave your house at one point.
I did.
Were you a troublesome teen?
No, I wouldn't say I was troublesome. My mom, I think she had that fear that I would be, so she tried to be a little bit more strict, enforcing like curfews and stuff like that. But my dad was the more like the trustworthy one. He was like, I trust you, just follow your mom's curfew, but I know that I don't have to be on your back 24/7 because I know you'll do the right thing. So I wouldn't say that I was troublesome. Maybe rebellious to a point, but not overly rebellious.
In your teenage years, though, you did go over to grandma's house.
A lot. I was always at grandma's house.
Where was grandma living?
Grandma, when we lived in Crown Heights, we lived with grandma for a while.
Yeah.
And then when we moved to Canarsie, she was still in Crown Heights for a while, but I was still going over there. And then grandma actually ended up moving across the street from us.
Get out of here. So were you one of the kids that every time you get in trouble, you run over to grandma's house?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
I went to daddy. When I got in trouble with mom, I ran to daddy. I would hold it in until my dad would get home, and I'm like, I'm telling daddy. Because daddy's going to check you on it.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, what drove you at one point? Because I did see here that you lived with your grandma.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought maybe you were like a little rebellious against your mom.
No. So my grandmother had this really huge apartment in Brooklyn, and it was like 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And so like all of the cousins were raised there together, me and all of my cousins. And my parents lived there too at some point. So they would go to work. Grandpa took me to school. Grandpa picked me up from school. Grandma always had my chocolate milk for me after school, before school, everything.
Oh, that's so cute.
And then my parents would come home from work, but like my homework was already done. Everything was good. All I had to do was just take a shower and get into bed, get ready for the next day.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool living with Grandma, actually.
Yeah, no, I like that because, I used to do that with my cousins. We basically, summertime was when I could remember it, but my grandma's house was in the Dominican Republic and we would all be there. There was no homework or any of that stuff, but, it was just a place where we all got to share.
Right.
And grandma's house was sweet for that. It was like, we were literally like, bees to honey.
Right.
We loved it.
That's where everybody has like their holidays. That's where the birthdays are celebrated, everything.
So when you chose to set up life there, or at least, run your teen years there, how was it? Was grandma like the one, approving of a boyfriend or letting you out?
No, so I think I kept my boyfriend in the wraps. Like nobody knew. I think I told my dad. I think he was the first one that I really told.
Mom was strict. Oh my gosh. You told your dad about your boyfriend before your mom?
Before my mom.
Oh my goodness.
My dad knew about my tattoos before my mom. He knew. My dad came with me to get my tongue pierced behind my mom's back.
Wow. Big shout out to your dad. What's your dad's name?
Juan.
There's only one like this guy.
There's only one.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, big shout out to your mom because you know what? You do need the yin, you need the yang in your life. And you do want to have this kind of balance, right? Because I think that if your mom wasn't that way, you could have went totally astray.
Yeah.
And you do got to get a little bit of it. So your dad was kind of your escape.
Right. He was.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Now, we're going to go into like, some of the reasons how you ended up where you ended up or started where you started. And fast forward, you're obviously a little more grown up. You like law enforcement. Mm-hmm. Maybe that comes from your mom. I'm not sure.
No, that's on my dad's side.
something there with the rules and whatnot. But you get into law enforcement. You figured take some time away from your parents or away from family. Mm-hmm. How was it living away from family? I mean, first of all, where did you want to go?
So originally, I wanted to move to. Well, okay, let's put it this way. When I was looking to get into law enforcement, I was looking at who was the highest paying law enforcement at the time because New York was not it. It was like $44,000 at the time. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to cut it. So I ended up seeing that Vegas was like the highest salaried.
Wow. Oh. Look at that. Vegas, baby. So you went to Vegas. You were high rollers as far as police departments are concerned.
I went, yeah.
Yeah.
I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm moving to Vegas. And she looked at me like I had 3 heads. She was like, no, you're not. And I was like, no, I am. And she didn't believe me until literally I was packing my bags and everything. And she's like, are you seriously doing this? And I was like, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Let me roll the dice. Let's see how it goes. Right. So you're out there. How long did you last?
A year before I officially got homesick. And I was like, I want to come back. And my mom was like, what are you, crazy? Like, you're so close to finishing up like your training. Because I was doing the PD training out here. So I had like a little bit left to go. And their process was super fast and like back to back. It's not like New York where you have to wait months. And
was it the summer that like got you out of there? Because I mean, no air conditioning, Las Vegas, it's a desert. It's hot.
But it's dry heat. It's not like...
Yeah, but you don't have a fire hydrant like in New York City. Every block is like a free car wash.
Yeah.
So was it that?
It was different. It was something to adjust to. I will say that. Much slower. The quality of life was definitely better, though. I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What years were this, by the way?
Oh, God. What year was it? 2020? No. Oh, my God. I was 21. Let's put it that way. I was 20, right?
Yes.
So, like 2000.
2003, 2000, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So this would have been a whole different change of life for you, but you came back. There was a pivot here.
Right.
Because you could have just said, hey, let me pick this up and do law enforcement here in New York.
Right.
You didn't. What happened in your life at that point?
So when I came back, I decided I wanted to finish school. So I said, let me go into John Jay. And I will say it wasn't easy getting into John Jay originally because I had kind of screwed up in my high school years. So I had to work to get into that. So I had to do like a year at Hostos Community College in the Bronx to get my GPA up. And then once I got it up, then I was able to apply again for John Jay, and then they took me. So I went through a whole thing to get into there, and then I finally was there, and I said, okay, well, now I'm going to actually finish off school.
That's it. Now you're going to decide.
That's it. I'm
You're
here.
finally moving forward, right? Because you were kind of like, I guess you were kind of stuck in neutral, right? In your case where you're trying to, establish this career, but you're not sticking to your guns.
Right.
Your mommy believes in you at this point? Like she knows you for real?
Yeah, she did.
All right, good. Because you know how mamas are. Mamas come down and your mom's the judge in the house. She's like, today's judgment day. You're going to do it or you're not going to do it. Listen, I'm going to have to go to a quick break. And because mommy's so tough, I'm going to go with a song right here because it's my man, Method Man, with his jam right there, Judgment Day. Let's go.
De regreso con Anthony from the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's right. Kids ain't playing over here, player. So we are in the studio with Jaylee Zeno. You found that funny, right?
I did.
Yeah, it's my little Method Man impression. We're coming back from a break like that. You got to be a little more amped on the song. And it's one of my favorites. I love the Wu-Tang. Like, they're fun. Yeah. And, it's METHOD.
Man.
There you go. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. So now let's go into this here because we left off with, grandma's house and, the change of career.
Right.
Now you're back in New York.
Mm-hmm.
You had something that occurred because you couldn't continue law enforcement as you would have had you stayed in Vegas, right? Because in Vegas, you would have been a police officer.
Right.
Right. Joined the PD. Here, you suffered a motor vehicle accident.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
How bad was that?
It was a rear end collision, and it kind of like threw like that whiplash into my neck. And at that point, the doctor was like, "Oh, well, I think you should really just stay more like bedridden, on bed rest and stuff like that." And I was like, "Well, I have to finish school."
How long?
He did give a specific time frame, but I was trying to rush it more so because he was like, well, at least like 6 months. And I was just like, well, no, like I have midterms coming up. I have to be there. And he was just like, no. So I reached out to my professors at the time and I was like, what can I do? Because this, I don't want to fail the classes.
And you can't folks, I want you guys to put this into perspective because this isn't like you're just going to jump on Zoom. Like this isn't that kind of time. So you really have to show up to class and you got to turn in your work. So like what they do, mail it to you?
No, she was like, well, one of my professors, she was like, if you can be here at least for the midterm and you pass your midterm, I'll pass you for the whole semester. So I was like, okay, that's fine. It was my psychology class. And then I had other professors that were like, I'm sorry, you have to be here or I can't do anything. Out. Right.
Wow. So, how were you, psychology class? How are you psychologically during that time? I mean, it's really upsetting. It's an accident and you're stuck in bed when the kind of career you're going to get into requires a lot of physical work.
Right. And
you may or may not be able to do it. I mean, I don't know if you're suffering through vertigo or things like that, but like maybe that's something you wouldn't be able to do. How did you feel?
It was a little discouraging. It was like, this is the path I want to go on. So how can I do it? And then afterwards, I started like doing physical therapy, stuff like that. And it was helping. It was good. At the time, I didn't know anything about acupuncture. I wish I did. Probably would have helped a lot more. But I went through physical therapy and MRIs and stuff. And then they were like, all right, well, no, she's good. Probably was just like a really bad like whiplash that kind of like threw me off. But when you mentioned vertigo, that's something that I actually currently, deal with. Yeah. So it's annoying.
So I tell people the path to what you want to get to isn't a straight path, right? Because here you could have been set up in Vegas, right? You had just a few weeks, I think you said, right?
Yeah.
A few months maybe, before finishing the academy. And then, I don't know, you kind of get a whiplash and you come back to New York where you actually suffer a physical accident with the whiplash.
Right.
And now you're pretty much in bed rest trying to finish school.
Right.
Did you get to finish?
I did not get to finish. I did not. That threw me off. They told me to speak to the dean. It was like a big runaround to try to like get them to accommodate me. And I'm the type of person that if I go through too many hoops and you're like pushing me to this person and that person and this person, but nobody's giving me an exact answer of how to go about it, it's very frustrating. And I'm just like, you know what? Is this even worth it? Or like, what are my other options?
These are the signs. These are the signs from the universe telling me this isn't working out. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just make my own path. Yeah. I don't want to give away the name of your company. Oh my God, I almost did. Because maybe that's the reason why you put that on. Maybe that's the reason you got to that name. But you made your own pathway.
Right.
Okay. And it took about 7 years for it to get established. You have 7 years worth of time where you're not getting the whole thing done in school. The PD's kind of out the picture now. You're working as a receptionist or office manager.
Right.
Right. Talk to me about, how did those 7 years of your life feel while you're kind of waiting and hoping that you get a phone call from something? I think your dad gave you this idea, right?
My uncle.
Your uncle. So your uncle gives you the idea of Department of Corrections?
No, I
was it?
originally wanted to do corrections.
You wanted
myself.
to do it. Oh
right.
my God. Okay. So then your uncle tells you become a court officer.
Right. Because he's a lawyer. So he's like, have you ever been to Rikers? You don't want to go to Rikers. And I'm like, what's the big deal? He's like, no, I go there to see clients all the time, and that's not where you want to be. So I was like, okay. So he just like got on his computer and printed out the court officer thing. And he's like, here, take this test. And I'm like, what do these people even do? I don't even know what they do. Like, you're
Have you ever been to court? Did you ever go to court?
Well, I didn't have a reason to go to court.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I was like, you're telling me to be a bailiff? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Like, I've seen Judge Judy and stuff, but I'm like, He's like, no, they do more than that. Just take the test.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll take the test. And I took the test, and they took so long to kind of like call.
Yeah.
So within that 7 years, it's like, you took this test, you passed, but then you feel like you're kind of just stuck. So it's like, what is my life coming to right now? I'm getting older. It's not how I see my life happening right now. So then I decided maybe change is good. So I started entertaining the idea of possibly moving to Florida.
Wow. Okay. So this is another step to go out. And again, not a straight path, right?
No.
You think about Florida, but you never get there.
Right. I even went as far as getting phone interviews at hospitals, but I didn't get to go. Instead, I ended up working at Federal Plaza for the government. And from there, I literally must have been there maybe 6 months. And then they literally called me and from the academy, and they were like, oh, are you ready to come into the academy like next week? And I was like, next week? Like, I have a whole job. What do you mean next week?
Yeah, well,
and they're like, it's a yes or no.
I want to point out the fact that you came across somebody who was very important in your life and for what you're doing today as well. But you met them during this like downtime.
Right.
So, folks, you never know who you're going to meet during your downtime or the time that you think you're not doing anything. If this person comes into your life, why don't you shout out her name real quick? Let's give her a round of applause.
Rachel,
and she is your business partner.
She is.
Yes,
She is.
we don't have her in the studio today, but big shout out to Rachel because you guys met during this time when you were like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing with my life? You guys meet, I guess you become good friends, right?
Yeah, we used to work together at the mental health clinic. She was a therapist, and I was working the front desk at the time. So me and her would go out to lunch, and, we spoke, and we were both going through, like, times in our life. And from there, like, once we separated from that aspect, she lived her own life, I lived mine, but we always kind of, like, remained connected on social media.
Yeah.
So, as I get further into the story, once I was doing my own thing with aesthetics and all that stuff, she was like...
She came back into the picture, like full blown.
Yeah.
But
she
now,
was like, we need to meet. We need to talk.
You're as a court officer, right? You start first day on the job. What's it feel like?
It's pure nerves. Just like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into?
Wow.
And originally I was set to go to Brooklyn Supreme Court, but literally the last day they switched up my orders and they put me to the Bronx. They put me to Bronx Family Court.
Yeah.
And I was so pissed off. I was like, who would send me to the Bronx and why?
Yeah.
And I was so mad. And when I got there, I was like, oh, I'm putting in my
You didn't want to
transfer.
leave your hometown. You just wanted to stay right where you were. You were
I
comfortable.
did.
Yeah.
I was.
She's like, oh, it's like Vegas all over again.
Yeah, I was
I'm
like-
getting homesick.
Yeah, that's how it was.
What I'm looking at here is just like you constantly have this thing where you're getting shifted off into another direction. You resist it as much as you want, or you fight for it as much as you want. But like somehow destiny has its way of playing with you here. And let's just characterize it for a second. You wanted to stay home more than once.
Right.
And no, you just can't.
I couldn't. Even literally my first day on the job, I put in a transfer to Brooklyn and I got denied. And then I put in another one when I had like 6 months in and I got denied again. And I was like, what is it with these people? Why won't they let me go to Brooklyn?
Yeah.
So I had put in a transfer to go across the street. I said, let me test this. If they approve me to go across the street, this is a setup. And I put to go to Bronx Supreme Criminal Court and they approved it. And I was like, why would they approve that but not Brooklyn?
The Bronx needs you. All right, the Bronx.
The Bronx does not need
yes,
me.
Miss Zeno, you are staying in the Bronx. Well, so now you're in Bronx Supreme Court.
I'm in Bronx Supreme Criminal, yeah.
So you're Supreme Criminal. So you're seeing everything.
Yeah.
Talk about having yourself on edge.
Yeah.
There's a lot of action happening there, right?
Yeah, but you know what? Believe it or not, the majority of the action really took place in family court. Like those were the days that I would have to make sure I ate before I got to work because 9 o'clock on the dot, you're having a fight with somebody.
In retrospect, looking back to the way your mom was and the way your dad was, the balance, the yin, the yang, how do you feel that's, or how important do you feel that is for families to, get along, do what they're supposed to do within each other's roles and not have family court have to resolve it?
I feel like that's very important. I feel like if you have to come to family court, that's got to be like your last option. It's really good to like try to take care of these matters into your own hands and be cordial about things. Like I see a lot of drama in the courts between like the baby mama and the baby daddies and all of this. And it's like you guys could literally fix this issue at home. Like you don't need the courts to intervene.
I think it's almost like you got to check within yourself as to like how you're feeling, and really just allow for the other person to do the same so that you can have an expression that's not judged.
Right.
We talked about Judgment Day with your mom and we played the song,
Right.
but the reality is like that brings on a lot of fear from the other person and a lot of resistance. And you see that play out in family court all the time.
A lot. But you know what it really is? The biggest part of it is that people react on emotions. And I feel like when you have a child involved, you have to separate the emotions. Like you have to be parents first and foremost, and your feelings for one another have to be put to the side.
Yeah. I mean, I know nobody's here as a therapist to pinpoint things, but sometimes does it appear that maybe they were lacking something at home as a child that they're trying to make up for today? So that's why the child isn't necessarily important to them as much as, like, say, their self-pride.
Right.
While they're in that courtroom, trying to save their face, I guess.
No, that's legit. That is exactly how it is sometimes. A lot of times I think the majority of the problems they have really comes from the unresolved issues that they have as a person, as it really has nothing to do with the kids. Yeah,
because I mean, it's also a shame to be referring, baby mama, baby daddy.
Yeah.
It's not a biological thing,
Right.
It's beyond that. And especially when we're talking about the psychology of things, I think that if you didn't have yourself, for example, a network to speak with these people, friends, family, you could find yourself in a situation when you have these unresolved issues and then you're trying to deal with it with someone else because you feel like they owe you. Whereas, that just happened to be the circumstance,
right.
And they just haven't gotten over it. It's sad to see that in this day and age, so many resources out there. I'm sure you have access to them. What are some of these places people should look at so they can check themselves before stepping into a situation like family court?
Well, I always tell people you have to do the inner work, right? We all suffer through trauma, something that took place in our lives that we just can't seem to get over. So I always tell people, see a therapist. It doesn't hurt to see a therapist. Everybody sees a therapist at this point for whatever reason. But a lot of times they help you pinpoint things that you didn't feel were actually taking a toll on you present day. But it really does. Mentally, it lingers, it sticks there, and you don't realize it until somebody starts to pinpoint your behavior and your characteristics that actually stem from that. Right. Then it's like that awakening. You're like, oh yeah, I never realized that. So. Wow.
I mean, I know every case is unique and, has its own circumstances. But do you ever kind of walk in there and say, okay, I know how this is going to go based on like just the way the facial expressions are, the vibe, I guess you can call it, right? Do you feel that sometimes?
Yeah, you could definitely read the room.
What do you do as a court officer to keep things in order? Because, I mean, it's delicate, right? There's a child. You never know if the child is used as an instrument while you're trying to keep people settled.
Yeah.
What do you do in that case?
I mean, we just try to make our presence known, that we're there. I think it's just gotten so bad to the point where they just don't care anymore. They just do whatever they want then and there. But when I was in family court, one of the things that would take place was that the judge would order that the kid be taken from the parents. And that's rough.
Oh.
Like, as to do your job, like, that's rough. Like, you don't ever want to have to take a child away from their parent, and then you hear the kid screaming and crying. They're like, Mom, and it's like, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's like almost like your problems within have come out to be such a reality that now it's affecting another living being, right. Where a third party has to get involved to just keep them safe. That's tough.
Yeah.
Going back to you now, and not just your job,
Right.
but you did some inner working yourself.
I did.
Because when you're in this job, and the reason I wanted to illustrate it is because you have to have this like strong mentality.
Right.
You have to be ready for just about anything that can occur. And you're at this job and you say to yourself, this new career, this new business you started up, it's all about this pathway to beauty.
Right.
And I plugged it in. I did it. It's this pathway to beauty is your business. And you talk about mental health, spiritual health, beauty from the inside and things of this nature. What was that checking that you did with yourself that you were like, I can't just be this hardcore bulletproof person. There's this other side of me. What was that could help some people today?
So for one, I didn't realize that I had that character until I went to Vegas, because then you see how different people are over there. They're not like New York people. They're not aggressive. They're very pleasant. They say good morning. They smile. It's like life is great over there. But then in that 1 year that I was there, I took on that same role. It was like, I was relaxed and I was nice. And then I came back to New York and I realized I can't be that person here because it wouldn't allow me to. It's just like not the nature of New York. But then as you continue on in life and you want to grow and you realize like there's a balance to everything. So I realized that a lot of my attitudes and habits and characteristics had to really mature. And I had to self-reflect and I had to like start thinking, well, why are some of my friendships this way? Or why are some of my relationships going this way? Because at some point you got to realize you're the problem, right?
Yeah, you had your own losses and so forth, and you're reflecting back, right? So, like I said, you're checking yourself on like how is this repeating itself in my life, and I'm just going to get mad at everybody else and not realize that I play in the game. That's a big observation. This new company, this new business you're in, it's young.
It is.
Right, and it just feels natural to you. I mean, I don't know how much longer you can keep up the two personalities, but I commend you for it. But I commend more especially the fact that you've recognized this within yourself. Getting out there, folks, is very, very valuable. You can't just be in the same four corners. As much as we want to represent our neighborhoods, and I appreciate that you do, we also have to get a chance to get to know other neighborhoods and see other paces of life.
Yep.
So I'm glad that was a wake-up call for you. But, folks, we got to check ourselves. There's a lot of advice that we have gotten from here. So read between the lines and look into yourself. And at the end of the day, as I said, and as my man Ice Cube said, because we're going to a break right now, you better check yourself. Let's go.
De regreso con Anthony from the neighborhood.
We're back to the program, folks, and we've caught a lot of stuff here, a lot of tips, checking yourself, mental health. And we're hearing from a court officer. So you think like, who's a court officer to tell me about like my mental health? She's witnessing this every single day. We're talking about family court, serious issues, and you're seeing these issues play out in front of you. But when you really go back, I mean, we could treat the symptom all we want, but what was the cause? And you yourself had gone through something like this, straight face, tough, right? But now you're realizing that this doesn't play well in this space. What traumatic event that I think many of us went through woke you up to say, hold on a second. Let me check myself and see that there's something off here. And I'm really, I think, in my opinion, you probably said this, is that you were stealing from the world about who you really were. You were keeping that away from who you could have been, who you could have, been this entire time.
Yeah.
But, I guess, you're just tough. You want the badge. It's the uniform. And shout out to all the people who are out there, all the court officers. Thank you very much for holding it down. But you do have another side to you.
I do.
So whether it's the yin or the yang, you woke it up.
Right.
Talk to me about that event that made you sit down and realize.
COVID.
Boom, boom.
It was COVID.
COVID. Those 5 letters are so notorious.
Right.
The 5-letter word sat you down and said, Jaylee, mírate bien. Okay? What's up? How'd that wake you up?
So during that time, I feel like a lot of people were really exposing the mental traumas that they had and the confidence issues that they had, self-esteem issues and all that stuff. And everything was just surfacing at that point. And I was seeing it because what else did we have to do, right? We were on social media. We were like speaking with one another through there.
I don't know about you, but I was pretty busy.
I'm sure.
No, well, I mean, yes, you're right. We had that time where like the world came to a stop.
Yeah.
And you had to kind of reassess where you were at. So you had time to reflect.
Yeah.
Especially in New York, where everything's running a mile a minute. You had time to reflect. Now, what did you reflect on?
On everything. It was just, so at that point in time, I realized I didn't really like seeing how people felt about themselves. It was like more people just speaking negatively about themselves. And I'm like, why do people see themselves in this light? Why don't people see them how I see them when I speak with them or interact with them? And I realized that a lot of them lacked confidence. So I said, what can I do to be helpful and resourceful to them, to kind of bring back that confidence and self-esteem and make them love themselves again? So the little things that people were complaining about, like, oh, well, I can't do my nails because the store's closed. Okay, well, I decided to go out and learn how to do my own nails, right, with dip powder. And I did a tutorial. And I said, well, this is how you do it. And I was just looking for ways to help them and teach them.
And this is pretty much online because you can't necessarily go to their house. You're socially distanced, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
I started the YouTube channel, Beauty with Jaylee.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to help them there. I'm going to put like a winter skincare routine to help them out and like have all these products that I get from Sephora that I'm sure people can help, benefit from. And I did that. And then I realized, like, why are you spending so much money on other people's products when you could just make your own? And then at that point, I was like, I think I want to do my own makeup and skincare line.
No background in the industry, folks.
No.
No experience. You decide your own makeup line. And now I'm going to fast forward. You've been seen as Business of the Year in Yonkers.
Yonkers, yep.
Because you live there?
Yeah, pretty much, right? I'm there. My business address is registered in Yonkers.
Got you. But you have two locations set up here in Long Island. I believe it's
so that's a different business.
Massapequa and Garden City.
Yeah, that's a different business. That's the wellness spa.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Pathways to Beauty in Massapequa and Coming to Garden.
Yeah, I let out the name before. Spoiler. So you have two businesses in Long Island. You have the line of makeup, skincare.
And makeup, yeah.
Yep. And coming out of Yonkers,
right.
Basically. So you're everywhere. And you're working at the Bronx Supreme Court.
I'm working in the Bronx.
Now, bring the secret out. How are you able to balance so much? You obviously have a power player in your corner, right? Rachel. You had some family members, I'm assuming your mom is keeping you in check.
Yeah.
Right? So big shout out to mom. There you go. Shirley in the house. Let's get a round of applause.
Shirley keeps me mentally checked.
Yeah. So far, I've shouted out your parents. You better do something right now.
I know. I love you, mama.
There you go. I'm on TV. How do you balance this?
You know what? I don't even know, to be honest with you. It's like, I feel like I'm always in go mode, right? And then even when I do take a second to sit down, it's like I'm working on something. I'm doing content. I manage like 5 different Instagram pages. And then you have like the Facebook pages and then the website. And then it's a lot. And then, I constantly deal with my front desk asking questions 24/7. How do I do this? How should I say that?
At the spa.
Right. So
okay.
It's like my phone is always going off constantly. And I'm like, oh my God. There are times that I'm just like, it's going on Do Not Disturb. I do not care who's reaching out to me. I need to take that break.
Yeah.
So balancing, I have my 9 to 5. When I'm there, I'm there. So whatever I'm doing at that moment, that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So there's times that the girls reach out to me during that time and I'm like, listen, I'm at work right now. I'll try my best to help them, but I just focus on wherever I am at that moment, at that time.
There you go, folks. Those are tips for life right there. Focus where you at, right? Be present. And focus on what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's how you're getting it done.
That's how I'm getting it done.
Wow. So you totally zero in. Where'd you get that from? Is that like your dad's Marines?
I would say that came more from mom, just having that structure.
You see, mom? She's shouting you out right now. I threw that in there. I was like, either mom or dad going to get it. Hook them up. That's beautiful.
Yeah, having
That's
that
beautiful.
structure and just like, making sure things are in order. And I cannot operate in chaos. It drives me nuts.
Well, talk about a little chaos. I got a little box here which kind of strikes up some chaos because nobody knows what's in the box. And it always comes up with a question that if I didn't ask, well, guess what? It's something that Destiny has a question to ask you, right?
Interesting.
My question right here. Here it goes. And we have your question. What funny memory do you have of someone who's gone?
Oh,
Wow.
this is easy. So
Wow.
my cousin, Mikey, who passed away when he turned 18 in the hospital.
Yeah.
He passed away from a car accident in Florida. That was like my brother. Like, we were born 2 years apart, raised together, went to the same school together, lived with grandma together. That was like my brother.
Wow.
So he passed away at that age from a car accident. But yeah, so the memory I have with him was that I took him with me with my friends. We went to a pool hall, and he was big on cars. And so we had went inside, and when it was time to leave, we came in and I went to turn on the car and it wasn't starting. So now I start panicking because, like, I'm young and I'm like, I don't know how to work on cars. Like, what the hell is going on? So I'm like, oh my God, guys, it's not starting, and I'm panicking. And he's just sitting there very calm and chill. And I'm like, it's not starting. And he's just looking at me and he starts laughing. I'm like, why is this funny to you? And he just goes and he connects
as
the
you're
battery
being chased
back.
by like Michael Myers or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was late night.
You're freaking out, right?
Late night. I'm like, oh my God, we're all stuck. What are we gonna do?
Jason's coming.
Jason's coming.
Wow.
And he just goes and he just like plugs the battery back in and it starts. And I'm like, what did you do? He was like, oh, I disconnected your battery. And I was like, why would you
Whoa.
do that?
What was it like? So they don't steal the car?
No, he did it to make me panic.
I got you.
He wanted to see me flustered and like panic. And that's why he was sitting there like, oh.
You know, I did something like that to my dad once with his car.
Yeah.
I actually deflated all his tires.
That was not nice.
So he was drunk. No, my dad, it was a New Year's party. No, actually my cousin's bachelor party. But we did a familial thing. It wasn't nothing too crazy, but he drank a little too much and he wanted to drive home. So I told my dad, no, you're not driving home. And he's like, how are you going to stop me? So I was like, you can't drive home. You got a flat tire. He's like, I got a spare. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to have to deflate all of them.
Oh,
so
my God.
Got him another drink. So he would be distracted, and we deflated all the tires. And he's like, who did this to me?
Oh, my God.
So he had to sleep over. So,
that was creative.
yeah, listen, you know what? Don't drink and
worked
drive.
out. Yeah, no, it worked out.
Or don't drink so you can't drive because I'm going to deflate your tires. This is awesome, and I love this box because you never know what's going to come out and you get to see a different side of who you're speaking to.
Right.
So a big shout out to all your family members.
Thank you.
You're definitely a person of familia.
Yeah.
It looks like it connects with you. Anybody in particular that we've missed that has had an impact in your life, or any place in particular that has had an impact? Because I think we've covered your life pretty cool in a pretty cool way. But seriously, like, in the advice you've given,
right,
has been phenomenal.
Thank you.
Especially seeing it from the point where you're seeing families getting separated and so forth. Please, on any of those notes, share, because I have my takeaways. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to like your next journey, your next chapter, your next episode,
right,
to hear what else you're doing, because you do have something coming up.
I do have something coming up, a few things coming up, actually. So one of the things that I'm currently working on is life coach and health coach.
Not surprised. Not surprised. But I see here in my crystal ball, a new location.
Yes.
That's coming in the works, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We have a new location for the wellness spa coming up soon.
So you're located Massapequa, Garden City.
And Garden City, that's it.
Where's the new location?
Well, the new location is actually going to be the main location. So in Massapequa, we have like the temporary location that we're operating out of, but then that main location is going to be
sort of like a satellite office. This is going to be your main one. So you got some big things coming up.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I wish you a lot of success on this next chapter, especially, I'm going to call it next episode, because that's what we do here. We make a show. But folks, there's a lot of takeaways here. Structure was one of the things, that your mom put in place, but then having that sort of flexibility with your dad. Right. I think those were very impactful things for your life. Having a place that you felt safe and among people that you felt comfortable with, grandmas, mm-hmm. and not having to just stay in character your entire life. I think there's something very important here, that she didn't have to just be this person behind the badge and wearing the uniform all day. Yes, it took a pandemic and it took a lockdown for you to realize that you could be somebody else. But what if you just purposely took away that time from a day, a week, and just decided to write things down, look at some old pictures? I mean, the fact that I'm on the radio is because my brother was looking at old videotapes and I said, yeah, you know what? I forgot about that person. How about if you're forgetting about a person that you've always wanted to be? And the pathway, to steal that from your company's name, isn't exactly straight, but it's there waiting for you. And that's something I took away from this today. So I really appreciate that. And I wish you a lot on your next episode. And until next time, I'll be seeing you guys back in the neighborhood. And I'm going to leave you with that song right there, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, the next episode. Let's go.